Kevin Durant sees his childhood friend panhandling and breaks down when he realizes who it is. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Kevin Durant leaned back against the car seat, one hand tapping the door, the other scrolling through his phone. The streets of D.C. buzzed past the window, old corners flashing by like memories he hadn't thought about in years. The driver made a casual comment about traffic ahead, but Kevin wasn't really listening. His mind was stuck halfway between the charity event he'd just left and the silent weight that always pressed on him whenever he came home. They pulled up to a red light. Kevin glanced out the window without thinking and froze. There, standing on the median, was a man holding a battered piece of cardboard. Kevin couldn't read it right away. It was the eyes that hit him first, eyes that had once lit up playground courts, eyes that used to dare him to be better, faster, stronger. Kevin sat up straight. His heart thudded against his ribs. "Pull over," he told the driver. The car eased to the curb. Kevin opened the door before it had even come to a full stop. He ignored the few heads turning, people recognizing him, pointing, and made his way toward the man. The cardboard sign read, "Just need a second chance." The man wore a baggy jacket, jeans fraying at the hem, sneakers worn down to almost nothing. His face was half hidden by an old hood, but when he turned to look at Kevin, the recognition hit like a punch. "Marcus?" Kevin said, his voice cracking. The man blinked, squinting against the afternoon sun. For a second, there was no spark of memory. Just another lost face in a city that chewed up dreams. Then the man straightened a little, the corners of his mouth twitching. "KD," he said slowly, as if afraid the name would break in his mouth. Kevin took a step closer, barely believing it. "Man, what the hell happened?" Marcus gave a rough laugh, one without any real humor. "Long story, Slim. You got time?" Kevin nodded, trying to find his voice, trying to find anything to say that wouldn't sound condescending or fake. People were starting to notice. A couple of teenagers pulled out phones. He could already feel this moment slipping away into public spectacle. He jerked his head toward a quieter corner, a boarded-up storefront with a stoop where they used to sit as kids, eating dollar slices and talking about the NBA like it was a sure thing. Marcus hesitated, then shuffled after him. They sat. For a long moment, neither spoke. Kevin stared at his hands. They were clean, manicured, insured for millions. Marcus's hands were rough, cracked, nails dirty, skin darkened by sun and cold. "You still ballin'?" Marcus asked finally, a smile playing at the edges of his mouth. Kevin laughed under his breath. "Yeah, man. Still trying that." Marcus nodded like he'd expected that answer. He shifted the cardboard between his knees, folding it like a napkin. "Good. Knew you would." Kevin swallowed hard. "Marcus, man, you were better than me. You had it all." Marcus looked out at the traffic, the blur of normal life rushing by them like a river. "Yeah," he said softly. "Once." Kevin wanted to ask 1,000 questions at once, where he went, what went wrong, why he hadn't reached out, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he said the only thing that felt real, "I'm sorry." Marcus shrugged. "Ain't your fault. Life ain't a straight line." Kevin leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Tell me what happened. Please." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking, his voice low, almost casual, like telling a story about someone else's life. He talked about his mom getting sick. About missing practices to work part-time jobs. About how one fight outside a gas station led to a charge that scared away college scouts. About trying to claw his way back through junior college, only to get hurt, only to lose scholarships. About coming home, taking whatever jobs he could, construction, security, retail. About bad choices and bad friends and how one night he just didn't have rent anymore. One night turned into 1 week. 1 week turned into 1 month. Then it was just survival. Kevin listened without interrupting, feeling the weight settle deeper on his shoulders. Marcus finished with a shrug. You know how it goes. One misstep, door closes. Another misstep, another door. Then after a while, you're just standing outside looking in. Kevin rubbed his face, fighting the sting in his eyes. You should have called me. Marcus chuckled, dry and hollow. You were busy. Chasing dreams. Making them real. I wasn't gonna be the anchor around your neck, man. Kevin shook his head fiercely. You were never an anchor. Marcus looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Maybe not then. But now? Come on, KD. Be real. Kevin stood up suddenly, the frustration burning hotter than the pity. This ain't it, Marcus. This ain't where your story ends. Marcus stayed sitting, looking up at him with a tired kind of amusement. What, you gonna save me now? Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it. He sat back down hard. I don't know, Kevin admitted. But I'm not just driving away and forgetting I saw you. Not happening. For a moment, the two men just sat there, two sides of a coin that had flipped one too many times. The world kept spinning around them, horns honking, people rushing by, lives moving at full speed, but for them, time seemed to slow, to hold its breath. Marcus shifted the cardboard again, his fingers tracing the battered edges. You know, he said, voice almost a whisper, back when we were kids, I always thought you'd leave, make it big, forget all about this place. Kevin looked at him, steady and sure. I never forgot, Marcus. Not once. Marcus laughed again, but this time, there was something different in it. A crack. A thread of something raw and unfinished. You always did have that stubborn streak, Marcus said. And you always had more fight than anybody I knew, Kevin shot back. They sat in the growing dusk, the city lights blinking on one by one, neither willing to leave, both knowing the next move mattered more than any game they had ever played. Kevin finally spoke, voice steady, sure. Let's start over, he said. Right here. Right now. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He looked down at the sign in his lap. Then he folded it in half, set it down gently on the stoop, and met Kevin's gaze. You serious? He asked. Kevin didn't blink. Dead serious. The light above them flickered, buzzing softly against the coming night. Marcus sat back, exhaled slow and deep, and for the first time in a long time, something like hope stirred behind his eyes. Kevin smiled. Come on. Let's go. And together, they stood up. The diner was half empty, the kind of place where nobody asked questions if you stayed too long over a cheap cup of coffee. Kevin slid into a booth across from Marcus, who looked awkward sitting inside after so long on the streets. The waitress dropped 2 menus with a tired smile, and Kevin waved them away, ordering 2 burgers, fries, and coffee without asking. Marcus pulled at the sleeves of his jacket, fidgeting like a kid in detention. Kevin just watched him, taking it all in, the slight limp when Marcus walked, the way he kept scanning the room like he expected trouble to follow him in. You don't have to keep looking over your shoulder, Kevin said quietly. Marcus snorted. Habit. The coffee came, and they drank in silence for a minute. Outside, the streetlights cast long shadows over the cracked sidewalks. Kevin set his cup down carefully. So what now? He asked. Marcus shrugged. I don't know, man. I don't have a plan. Just been trying to make it to the next day. Kevin leaned back, thinking. He wanted to fix it all, to snap his fingers and erase the last 10 years for Marcus. But life didn't work that way. It wasn't about charity, it was about giving Marcus a way to stand on his own again. You ever think about coaching? Kevin asked. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Coaching what? Kids. Basketball. You were always the one showing me how to fix my shot, how to move without the ball. Marcus laughed, a short, rough sound. Man, those kids deserve better than some washed-up dude off the streets. Kevin shook his head. You got more heart than half the coaches I know. They need somebody who understands what it's like, not just somebody with a clipboard. Marcus stared into his coffee. Kevin didn't push. He knew better. You couldn't force pride into submission overnight. The burgers came, greasy and perfect. Marcus attacked his like he hadn't eaten a real meal in days, which Kevin suspected might be true. Between bites, Marcus said, even if I wanted to, nobody's hiring a guy with a record. Kevin leaned forward. Let me worry about that. Just say you'll think about it. Marcus wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Think about it, huh? He looked at Kevin, and for a moment, that old spark flickered again. You always did talk big. Kevin grinned. Worked out pretty good, didn't it? Marcus shook his head, smiling despite himself. You ain't changed. They finished eating, and Kevin settled the bill, ignoring Marcus's protest. As they stepped outside, the night felt heavier somehow, full of unspoken things. Kevin hesitated, then said, I'll get you a place to stay. Not a handout, just a reset. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. All right, he said finally. Just until I get my feet under me. Kevin nodded. Deal. The next couple of days moved fast. Kevin made calls, pulling in favors from people who owed him or admired him. A small community center in D.C. needed volunteers for their youth basketball league, underfunded, overlooked, but full of kids who needed guidance more than plays. Kevin didn't tell them Marcus's whole story. He just said he knew a guy who could make a difference. Meanwhile, Marcus checked into a cheap but clean motel. Kevin dropped off a duffel bag with fresh clothes, a pair of decent sneakers, and a prepaid phone. Marcus stood by the door awkwardly, like he didn't know what to do with kindness anymore. Kevin clapped him on the shoulder. No strings. Just do the work. That night, Marcus lay on the motel bed staring at the ceiling, the TV flashing muted images across the room. He felt the weight of the years pressing down, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel crushed by it. Maybe there was still a chance. Maybe. The next afternoon, Marcus showed up at the gym. It was smaller than he remembered gyms being, cracked floors, faded lines, backboards that rattled when the ball hit too hard. But the kids didn't seem to care. They ran and laughed and argued about fouls with the same reckless passion Marcus remembered from his own childhood. The director, a stocky guy named Coach Ramirez, shook his hand and introduced him to the kids as Coach Marcus. No questions, no lectures, just a whistle and a clipboard shoved into his hands. Marcus fumbled through the first few drills, nerves getting the better of him. A couple of the older boys tested him, mouthing off and showing off. Marcus let them. He wasn't here to bark orders like some drill sergeant. He was here to earn it. During a break, one of the younger kids, couldn't have been more than 9, stayed behind shooting free throws by himself. Clumsy form, terrible aim, but pure determination. Marcus walked over, crouched beside him. What's your name, little man? Tyrese, the boy said without looking up. Marcus nodded. You want to know a trick? Tyrese finally looked at him, cautious. Don't just aim for the hoop, Marcus said. Pick a spot. Real small. Like a dot right on the back of the rim. Focus on that. Let the rest disappear. Tyrese squinted up at the basket, adjusted his stance, and let it fly. Swish. He turned to Marcus, eyes wide. Marcus smiled. Told you. For the first time all day, Marcus felt like he was standing on solid ground. After practice, Coach Ramirez clapped him on the back. You're a natural, he said. Marcus shrugged. Just trying not to mess him up too bad. Ramirez chuckled. Trust me. You're doing better than you think. As Marcus walked back to the motel that night, he felt something strange stirring in his chest, a quiet, stubborn thing he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Kevin called later, checking in. How'd it go? Marcus hesitated, then said simply, good. Kevin laughed. Told you. You were made for this. One day at a time, Marcus said. That's all it takes, Kevin replied. They hung up, and Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the phone. One day at a time. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't easy. It wasn't even guaranteed. But it was a start. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus was willing to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't finished yet. Marcus woke up before sunrise, lying there in the stillness, listening to the hum of the cheap motel heater kick on. His body ached in places he forgot could hurt, but it wasn't from sleeping rough anymore. It was from running drills, jumping into scrimmages, chasing after kids half his size and 3 times his energy. It felt good. He sat up, pulled on the fresh pair of sneakers Kevin gave him, and stared at himself in the cracked bathroom mirror. Dark circles under his eyes, scars along his knuckles, creases deepened by years of hard living. But underneath it all, something new was taking shape. Or maybe something old he thought he lost. The morning passed in a blur: bus ride, quick stop for a cheap coffee, then straight to the gym. The kids were already there, shooting around, laughing, trash-talking. When they saw Marcus, a few of them ran up, peppering him with questions. Coach, we playing full court today? Coach, you gonna teach us to step back like James Harden? Coach, you played in the NBA, right? Marcus smiled, shaking his head. Nah, man. I was just good enough to almost make it. The kids didn't care. To them, Marcus was already a legend. The drill started, and for the first time since he took the job, Marcus didn't feel like an outsider. He blew the whistle, ran them through layup lines, corrected bad footwork, clapped and shouted encouragement when someone hustled for a loose ball. He lost himself in it, the rhythm of teaching, the way the court seemed to breathe under their sneakers. After practice, Tyrese, the same quiet kid from before, hung around again. Marcus walked over, tossing him a ball. You ready for the three-point line yet? Tyrese grinned shyly. Maybe. Marcus nodded toward the free throw line. Let's master that first. They worked for an extra half hour, just the two of them. Each made shot was a little victory. Each missed shot was just another step closer. Marcus didn't say much, just kept feeding Tyrese the ball, trusting the kid to find his own rhythm. It felt pure. Honest. When they finally wrapped up, Tyrese looked up at him and said, Coach, you ever mess up bad? Marcus froze for a second. Out of all the questions in the world, he hadn't expected that one. He crouched down so they were eye level. Yeah, he said. A lot. Tyrese shifted awkwardly, kicking at the floor. My brother's in jail. My mom says I'm gonna end up like him. Marcus felt a knife twist in his gut. He put a hand on Tyrese's shoulder. You don't have to be what other people expect. You get to choose, Ty. Every single day. Tyrese nodded slowly, and for a second, Marcus saw himself, years ago, needing someone to say those exact words. After Tyrese left, Marcus sat alone on the bench, the gym empty and echoing. He stayed there a long time, just thinking. Later that night, Kevin called again. You're still with it? Kevin asked. Marcus chuckled. Still breathing. You sound different. Marcus leaned back on the motel bed, staring at the ceiling. Feels like I'm building something. Not just surviving. Kevin didn't say anything for a second, then he said, Proud of you, man. Marcus felt a lump rise in his throat. He swallowed it down. Thanks, he muttered. Kevin cleared his throat. Hey, listen. I'm coming by tomorrow. Got something you should see. Marcus arched an eyebrow even though Kevin couldn't see it. You always pulling surprises. You'll like this one, Kevin said, and hung up. Marcus stared at the phone for a long minute, wondering what his old friend had cooked up now. The next afternoon, Kevin showed up at the gym in jeans, a hoodie, and a baseball cap pulled low. Still, heads turned. Kids started whispering, eyes wide. Is that KD? No way. Yo, it's him. Kevin laughed and threw his hands up. Chill, I'm just visiting. He clapped Marcus on the back and pulled him aside. I've been thinking, Kevin said. That empty lot 2 blocks over? Used to be a busted-up playground? Marcus nodded. He remembered it well. He and Kevin had spent whole summers there, shooting on broken rims, dodging drug dealers, playing until the sun dipped behind the rooftops. Kevin grinned. We're turning it into a real court. Full renovation. Lights, fresh pavement, new hoops. All of it. Marcus blinked. We? Kevin shrugged. My foundation's footing the bill. But it's going to be your court. Marcus reeled. Man, I don't know. Kevin cut him off. You deserve this. The kids deserve this. And you're the guy who's gonna make sure it stays what it's supposed to be. Marcus felt the weight of it settle over him. Not a burden, a responsibility. A chance to give back the way nobody had been able to give him. You sure about this? Marcus asked. Kevin grinned. Bet your ass I am. Marcus laughed, the sound strange but good in his chest. All right, Slim. Let's do it. The next weeks passed in a blur. Construction crews moved in. Marcus met with community leaders, planned weekend tournaments, organized volunteer schedules. He had a hand in everything, picking colors for the court paint, making sure the rims were breakaway, setting up lights for night games. Word spread. The kids buzzed about it like it was Christmas coming early. And for the first time in years, Marcus wasn't drifting. He had somewhere to be. Something that mattered. One afternoon, while overseeing a batch of volunteers painting murals on the walls, Marcus caught himself smiling without thinking. He belonged here. Not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that it wasn't too late to fight back, to rebuild what was broken. Later that evening, standing alone on the half-finished court, he dribbled the ball slowly, feeling the rhythm of it. The ball still felt natural in his hands, like it had been waiting for him to come back all along. The sun dipped low, throwing long shadows across the new lines painted fresh on the ground. He shot once, clean and smooth. Swish. The sound echoed, sharp and pure. Marcus picked up the ball and shot again. And again. And again. Each shot stitching something torn back together. Each shot writing a new future, one choice at a time. The grand opening of the new court was set for Saturday. Flyers had gone out across the neighborhood. Kids, parents, former players, everyone was buzzing. Kevin made sure it stayed low-key, no big cameras or NBA sponsors. This wasn't about spotlighting him. It was about Marcus, about the community, about second chances. Saturday morning came crisp and clear, blue skies stretching over D.C. Marcus stood by the gate, wearing a brand new Coach Marcus hoodie someone had printed up. He kept tugging at the sleeves, feeling weird about it. He wasn't used to being the guy people celebrated. Kevin pulled up just as the first kids started to gather. He hopped out, nodding at Marcus with a grin. You ready for this? Kevin asked. Marcus tried to act cool but couldn't hide the nerves. Man, I'd rather play Game 7. Kevin laughed and clapped him on the back. Just be yourself. That's enough. People poured in. Local news showed up, not the big flashy stations, just small-town reporters, cameras on their shoulders. Kids chased each other around the new court, sneakers squeaking on the fresh surface. The smell of new paint and hot dogs from a corner food truck filled the air. Coach Ramirez gave a short speech, thanking Kevin, thanking Marcus, thanking everyone who showed up. Then he handed the mic to Marcus. For a second, Marcus froze. Words stuck in his throat. But then he looked out, saw Tyrese waving, saw a dozen kids bouncing basketballs with wide grins, and the fear melted. He cleared his throat. I don't got a lot of fancy words, he said. But I know what this court means. It's not just a place to play. It's a place to dream. A place to mess up and get back up. A place where you're not judged by your past, but by how hard you hustle today. The crowd clapped and cheered. Marcus smiled, a little shaky but real. He held up the ball. Now let's break this court in the right way. The first game tipped off. Marcus coached from the sidelines, laughing, shouting encouragement, getting into it like he was a kid again. Kevin even laced up a pair of sneakers and played a few minutes, pulling his cap low to keep things from getting crazy. It was perfect. Until it wasn't. Late in the afternoon, as the games wound down and the crowd thinned, Marcus noticed a man standing by the fence. Tall. Lean. Sharp eyes. Derek. An old ghost from the neighborhood. Not a good one. Marcus stiffened. Derek was part of the life Marcus had walked away from. Drugs, fights, bad deals that never ended well. And judging by the look on Derek's face, he hadn't come to shoot hoops. Marcus excused himself and walked over. Didn't think you'd show your face around here, Marcus said low. Derek smirked. Didn't think you'd be out here playing hero, coach. Marcus crossed his arms. What do you want? Just seeing how far you fell, Derek said, voice dripping sarcasm. Running kids' games now? Thought you were smarter than that. Marcus felt the old anger bubbling up. The old pride. The instinct to lash out. But he pushed it down. Took a breath. Maybe it ain't about being smart, Marcus said. Maybe it's about doing something that matters. Derek shook his head. You gonna pretend like you're clean? Like you ain't got blood on your hands too? Marcus's jaw clenched. He didn't need a reminder of his mistakes. He carried them every day. I ain't pretending, Marcus said quietly. I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday. For a second, Derek's smirk faltered. Then he spat on the ground and walked away, blending into the crowd. Marcus stood there a long moment, breathing hard, fists unclenching one finger at a time. Kevin wandered over. Everything good? Marcus nodded. Yeah. Everything's good. But inside, he knew it wasn't over. Not yet. That night, Kevin and Marcus sat outside the gym, eating from paper plates loaded with barbecue from the food truck. You did good today, Kevin said around a mouthful of ribs. Marcus chuckled. Didn't think I'd survive that speech. You crushed it, man. Kids love you. Whole block's buzzing. Marcus poked at his beans with a plastic fork. I saw Derek. Kevin's smile faded. That dude still around? Yeah, Marcus said. Still playing the same games. You need me to handle anything? Marcus shook his head. Nah. I handled it. They sat in silence for a bit, the night humming around them. I ain't scared of him, Marcus said finally. Not anymore. Kevin nodded. Good. Because you're not that guy anymore. Marcus thought about that, about how easy it would be to slip, how the wrong word or the wrong night could drag him back down. Redemption wasn't a straight line. It was a battle every day. I just gotta keep showing up, Marcus said. Yeah, Kevin said. Same way you showed up for me when we were kids. Marcus smiled. Had to keep your skinny butt in check. Kevin laughed loud and easy, and for a moment, they were just kids again, sitting on a stoop with a ball between them and the whole world ahead. As the night deepened, Marcus stood up, stretching. Come on, Slim, he said. 1-on-1. 4 old times. Kevin groaned. Man, my knees ain't built for this anymore. Marcus grinned. Scared? Kevin shook his head, grabbing a ball. Let's go. They played under the stars, under the new lights of the new court, sneakers squeaking, ball slapping against pavement, laughter echoing into the night. No fans. No endorsements. No noise. Just 2 friends. Still standing. Still fighting. Still dreaming. The weeks after the grand opening blurred into a rhythm Marcus hadn't known he needed. Early mornings at the court. After-school practices. Weekend tournaments. He wasn't just coaching, he was mentoring, shaping, catching kids before they fell through the cracks the way he once had. The city started noticing too. Local businesses offered sponsorships. Donations trickled in. Parents who once stood back now filled the bleachers, cheering louder than the kids. What started as a handful of pickup games had become a full youth league. Marcus stood at the center of it all, not as a savior, but as a reminder. A living, breathing second chance. One afternoon, as he packed up stray basketballs after practice, Tyrese ran up to him. "Coach," he shouted. "Guess what?" Marcus straightened up. "What's up, Ty?" Tyrese grinned wide, holding up a slip of paper. "I made honor roll." Marcus let out a low whistle. "No way." "Yeah. And Coach Ramirez said I can maybe get a scholarship later if I keep my grades up." Marcus ruffled the kid's hair. "Told you were built for more." Tyrese's smile faltered for a second. "My mom says thanks." She cried when she saw it. Marcus knelt so they were eye level. "You did that, Ty. Nobody else. Don't ever forget it." Tyrese nodded, serious, the way only a kid with too much weight on his shoulders could be. After Tyrese left, Marcus sat alone on the bleachers, the sun sinking low, painting the court gold. He closed his eyes and breathed in deep. He remembered those long-ago nights, him and Kevin, sitting under broken lights, talking about NBA dreams and big houses and making it out. Marcus hadn't made it to the NBA. But somehow, he realized, he'd made it anyway. Later that night, Kevin called. "You see the article?" Kevin asked. Marcus chuckled. "Nah. I'm allergic to fame, remember?" Kevin laughed. Front page of the community paper. Local coach turns lives around. "You're a damn hero, man." Marcus shook his head, even though Kevin couldn't see it. "I ain't no hero." "Maybe not," Kevin said. "But you're the kind of man kids look up to. That counts." Marcus leaned back in the chair, listening to the hum of the night. "You know," he said slowly, "if you hadn't stopped that day, if you hadn't pulled over." Kevin's voice was quiet. "You'd have made it somehow. You always had to fight." Marcus smiled a little. "Maybe. But it's easier to fight when you know someone's in your corner." Neither said anything for a while, the silence comfortable. Finally, Kevin said, "Got a surprise for you." Marcus groaned. "Man, your surprises stress me out. This one's good. Trust me." The next morning, Marcus showed up at the court to find a crowd gathered. Kids, parents, local reporters, even a few city council members. At the center of it all, Kevin stood grinning like he had a secret. "What's going on?" Marcus asked, wary. Kevin just clapped a hand on his shoulder and steered him toward the gate. There, bolted onto the fence, was a brand new plaque. It read, "The Marcus Grant Community Court. For those who never stop fighting. For those who rise again." Marcus stared at it, throat tight. His hands curled into fists at his sides, not from anger, but from trying to hold back everything rushing up inside him. "You earned this," Kevin said quietly. "All of it." For a second, Marcus couldn't move. Couldn't even breathe. He thought about the nights he slept on concrete. The jobs that didn't last. The mistakes that almost swallowed him whole. The friend he thought he lost. The kids who now believed they had a future because of a busted-up old coach who hadn't known when to quit. Slowly, he reached out and touched the plaque. It was real. Solid. He turned to Kevin. No big speeches. No dramatic hugs. Just a nod. The kind of nod that carried every thanks he didn't know how to say. Kevin nodded back, understanding without needing the words. They stayed through the ceremony, through the kids playing their pickup games, through the photos and the laughter. As the sun dipped low and the shadows stretched long, the crowd finally thinned, leaving Marcus and Kevin alone at half court. Kevin dribbled the ball lazily, then tossed it to Marcus. "One last shot?" Kevin asked. Marcus grinned. "Always." He stepped back to the three-point line. Lined it up. The ball soared through the evening sky, spinning slow, catching the last light of the sun. Nothing but net. Kevin let out a whoop, clapping his hands. Marcus just smiled. Not for the shot. Not for the plaque. Not for the headlines. But because he was home. He wasn't the kid who lost his shot at the NBA. He wasn't the man who slept on cold sidewalks. He wasn't a ghost from the past. He was Marcus Grant. Coach. Mentor. Fighter. And finally, he was whole. As the last light faded from the sky, Marcus picked up the ball again, bounced it once, and looked at Kevin. "You ready for game 20? He asked. Kevin laughed. "Man, you gonna make me regret this." Marcus just smiled wider. "Nah. This time, you're the underdog." They started playing, two friends under the glow of the new lights, laughter echoing against the concrete, no crowds, no trophies, just the pure love of the game and the bond that had survived everything life could throw at them. For Marcus Grant, it wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about standing up, about moving forward, about never letting the game, or life, finish without giving it everything he had. And he wasn't finished. Not even close.